You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how we doing tonight?
Yeah, doing good, man. Doing really good. So we are in the middle of April. We are a week and a half away from the NFL draft. So been doing good. Definitely catching up on some hockey. The Masters this past weekend. Congratulations to Rory, back-to-back Masters winners. I unfortunately didn't see any of it. I was in baseball tournament mode with the kids all weekend long, so I didn't catch any of the Masters, but I did hear about it. So congratulations. Yeah, dude, I'm cooking, man. This is a good time of year. Spring's around, kids are outside playing ball. Like, we're getting ready to go do the draft. Like, I got no complaints.
Right. Yeah, certainly a really good time on that one, right? I did manage to catch some of Saturday and Sunday's coverage on the Masters, which was certainly kind of a fun thing there, right? Like, Scotty kind of made a late push there to try and solidify some things, but came up a little too not quite enough and a little too late on that one. But it was interesting, right? Because Rory jumped out to that massive lead on Friday and then managed to go one under par the next 2 days, right? So there was a lot of people that those final 2 days played a lot kind of better golf. They just hadn't put themselves in a position to catch him. So it was one of those two that kind of coming down the 17th and the 18th, and you started seeing that where that's where Rory's had some trouble in the past, kind of finishing out off there, and managed to hold it together. So even with some errant shots kind of along the way. But congratulations to Rory, and we got the Masters in the book, and start looking ahead towards some of the other stops on the tour there. So that'll be fun.
How old is Rory now? Do you know off the top of your head? I know he's younger than us. And I know he started when he was young, but it just feels like he's one of the old guys now, even though I don't think he's particularly
36.
old.
36.
So he's a little younger than us, not by.
Well, for professional golf, he's at the twilight, right? Like, that's typically where you see guys start falling off is kind of those mid 30s, and that's where you start seeing guys having a hard time continuing to hold on to their tour cards, is once you start getting around that kind of 40 on that one, right? Like, that is becoming a younger man's game kind of every year, it seems like, where you have these rookies coming up, and kind of pushing some of these older guys kind of to the wayside, right? So like a Justin Rose, who's been around forever. He is definitely kind of the old guard anymore on that one at 45, and most of the rest
Masters, though, like, he does still come to play in majors.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm actually interested because it does seem like most of the kind of the bigger names on tour are kind of much closer to that 30 age than anything else.
It feels like it. I'm gonna be really honest. It's just not anything that I follow intensely at all. Like, I scroll through it from afar around the majors, and outside of that, I really don't know much of anything about these guys, other than I like the game. It's fun to play. I know that they're really, really good, and I know I'm not. Like, that's kind of the extent of my knowledge of it.
Right. So just kind of doing some quick kind of searches on that, right? Does show that back in 2018, the average age was around 33, and I feel like that's gotten younger since then. But back in 2004, the average age was about 36, so it does seem to be trending younger for the kind of the average age of players on the tour. And you start seeing guys kind of come out and peak a little bit sooner than and earlier than maybe previously on that one. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of look at some of that stuff and kind of see that. So
I don't know. It was better with Tiger, and I know he's got his own dealings and his own demons that he's working through, and I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying for golf, watching golf was funner with Tiger for whatever reason. Like his his swagger, his just ability to do things that we really hadn't seen yet at a consistent level, and I don't know, he was likable. He was likable. He was a guy that you wanted to root for, and now I feel like all these guys are kind of the same dude.
yeah,
Like they're all just kind of the same country club baby who picked up sticks, when they were really young, and between hard work and God-given talent, they made it early, whether it was, you know, right out of college or partially through college or whatever that looks like, and then they find ways to stick around and they just alternate wins. Like you don't have a dominant driving force anymore.
that Scotty's the closest thing to that anymore, right? But like Scotty has a long way to start knocking on the doorstep of what we saw Tiger do, right? So
Exactly.
So no, it is interesting to see how some of that kind of changes and updates and all of that, right? But yeah, it's one of those that they talk about generational talents, right? Then and in that sport, it seems like it's not even generational, right? Like there's kind of seems to skip some beats in there in between when you get the truly great players of that sport and who can really kind of come out and truly dominate, right? Like Nicholas, it was what 14 years from maybe not quite that long, but it was a good while from when we saw him win his last major, and that last major came well past his prime and his peak before we saw Tiger emerge and start winning and kind of dominating there, right? And
Yeah, because what Arnie and Jack had a couple
yeah, kind of going back and forth, right?
going
But
back and forth a little bit, and both are legends in their own right. I mean, but yeah, Jack definitely took the cake, and then yeah, you had this lull, and it was there, and then Tiger came on the scenes, and I don't know, like I like these guys. Like, don't get me wrong, like it's not that I have a disdain for any of these golfers. Like I like these guys, but guys who, like you said, peak early and then don't really do a whole bunch, right? When Jordan Spieth came on the scene,
right, that's a
right?
prime example. Yeah,
Jordan Spieth came on the scene and everybody was going, "Oh my gosh, this is it. Like this is the next guy. Like he's going to be the face of it." And he was the face for about 2 years because the narrative was to push him so hard. And the guy, as good of a golfer as he is, he was not able to maintain that championship level. And now he resides in the 30s if you're looking at like FedEx rankings or something like that.
52nd in world golf rankings right now.
No, geez, yeah. See, I mean, but hey, he has a major. You'll never take it away
Yep,
from
three of
him.
them
Good for
actually.
him.
He's a 3-time major winner. I mean, it came out kind of hit that hit that hard. But yeah, and he's one Masters away from completing the career Grand Slam, right? The PGA Championship is the one that has eluded him. But to your point, right, a guy that came out and just hit the scene hard, right? He won the Masters in 2015, won the U.S. Open in 2015, won the Open Championship, right? Back in 2017, finished second in the PGA Championship, the major that has eluded him in 2015. So kind of right there in that 2-year window was definitely kind of the guy to beat, and it hasn't really maintained that level since then.
It's hard. I mean, and maybe that's part of what Tiger did for the game. Is he got so many people invested into the game of golf because he did. There's no denying that maybe it is just more of a well-rounded competition, and you're gonna have to see something truly, truly special to see someone as dominant or close to dominant as Jack was or Tiger was, because now there's so much television and so many ad dollars and sponsors and everything else that came from the swing of Tiger Woods.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like you look at it, Scotty is by far kind of that guy that's kind of stepping into that and probably because he's 175 weeks consecutive weeks at world number 1 ranking, right? Tiger spent 281 consecutive weeks at world number 1, right? So as good of a performance as Scotty's put together recently, and as dominant as he's been, right? He's won 4 majors kind of over that time span. That's still over 2 years worth of consecutive weeks that he's has to maintain just to try and catch Tiger. But
and I don't feel like anybody fears him. They know he's good,
right?
But people feared going up against Tiger, right? There was a choke factor, knowing that Tiger was coming on the back 9 and everything. And I don't know. I just don't feel like anybody talks that way about any current golfer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, looking at it, Tiger spent a total of like 680 some weeks at world number 1, right?
Phenomenal.
Which is more than double than the next
12
closest
years.
guy.
Yeah. That's over 12 years.
Right. So, when you talk about just pure domination, you're right. Like we may never see somebody that dominant again, right? And if we do, it's probably going to take a while to do that, because you're right. Like there was a time that it felt like no matter when he teed it up, like that was the guy to beat every single week, right? Whereas now it does seem like there's going to be a couple of guys up there, but it's probably a little bit more up for grabs, it feels, right? Like you'd have Tiger come through with those just bogey free rounds, and you knew that you were going to have to play darn near perfect to even have a shot to try and take it down the stretch here on Sunday. So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's the most golf we've talked about on the show in all the years that we've done it.
I know, right?
We probably combined all the previous golf talk into that, and I think we outpaced that by a lot. Anyway, we can certainly move on from that one. Unless you got some more golf you want to chat about.
No more golf. I did see. I'm scrolling through my notes here. Oh, the ex-Michigan coach got 18 months probation.
Yep.
That was something. And then
the Patriots are in the news again with some scandalous stuff.
Diane Rossini is stepping down because of the pictures with Mike Vrabel. Like, I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's so much harder to live any type of life in today's world than it was a generation ago.
Sure, even 10 years.
Everybody has a phone and a camera and everything. And like, I tell my, here's another weeds. I begun to start to tell my kids that, like, look, like, we are harder on you than our parents were on us, or their parents were on them, for a lot of things, because everybody has a phone and they're attached to their phone, and everybody's after clicks and views and notoriety. Like, unfortunately, you guys don't get the same opportunities to make up and live down mistakes that we did, or your grandparents did, or anything else. Like, we have to really try and teach you ahead of time, because no one's willing to forgive and forget. Like, they're willing to, humiliate and then let it pass is basically what it is. And it's unfortunate.
Right. So, yeah, very, very interesting, right? But they was, I I saw somebody, and I can't remember who did it, but it was somebody making the kind of a spiff that the Patriots are relevant again because there was a scandal type of thing brewing around that one. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, no, it's yeah, we'll see what that one comes to play, right? I did see reports out there that the Athletic was going to continue its investigation, even with the stepping down and resignation of Rossini. No news on Vrabel's situation and all of that, but yeah, just kind of interesting that we saw that news populate coming through.
Ain't nothing gonna happen to Vrabel. Two consenting adults.
So
Ain't nothing happening to Vrabel.
allegedly, right? Like, nothing's proven, so allegedly all of this, but just put that disclaimer out there. Anyway, moving on. The Giants and Dexter Lawrence have seemed to reach a trade talks are starting to kind of heat up. It sounds like because the two sides seem to be a long way away from being able to reach a contract extension. So that is a very interesting thing to see how this one comes to play going down the stretch as with the NFL draft kind of right around the corner. So will we see somebody step up and make a draft day trade? Make some deals happen leading up into that. This is the time of year that we start seeing some of those kind of blockbusters start rocking and rolling through, where teams have some of that capital, or it's a little bit easier to make some of those deals happen this time of year, as it seems.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the trade value truly is for Dexter Lawrence, because I don't think they're going to get a first rounder for him. Like, he's been good, but I don't know that he's been great in that regard. So I'm not sure that the first round's the way to go. But after you get through some of the pass rushers at the top end of this draft, and even through the first round, you just never quite know, what teams are willing to do. I'd tell you the Patriots are an interesting one, right? Because if we look at cap space right now, roughly, I mean, Titans lead the way, but they signed 2 pass rushers in free agency already, and that's not going to go there. The Commanders, I'm going to say no, because you're not going to trade them in division. Chargers, maybe, but I don't know if from one Harbaugh to the next Harbaugh is going to be the best move for Dexter Lawrence. So
Right.
I think you can kind of eliminate that. And then you're back to the Cardinals, and Cardinals, Jets, Patriots are kind of the next ones in line. So maybe because they'll have the Cardinals and Jets have higher end draft capital. So maybe they decide that they want a more immediate impact. Maybe neither team truly has a quarterback, so I don't know that necessarily does anything for them
Right
away. So, I mean, again, there's lots of moving pieces, and anything can happen between draft capital and players in return and all this other stuff. But I don't think you're going to see a trade involving Dexter Lawrence on Thursday night for the draft. I think if anything, it could be Friday, maybe, round 2, round 3, maybe. I mean, and maybe there's some players involved and some extra picks and whatnot, but I don't know. If you're the Giants, you don't want to give up on it. Like, you feel like you have this good young quarterback and can kind of look at that. But honestly, that first round is going to tell us a lot. If the Giants draft offensive tackle, I don't think they're really going to want to trade him, or offensive. But if they go defensive end, pass rusher type, because one of those guys fall to him, well, then maybe you see him willing to part ways with Dexter Lawrence a little bit more.
Yeah, potentially.
Easily, right? So I think the Giants are just kind of wait and see mode. What's the board fall to us? What's it look like? And then what can we do with it?
Well, we've seen the Giants GM let stars walk out of the building before, right? Like, this is the same GM that decided not to sign Saquon Barkley, who subsequently left and had a historic season and went on to win a Super Bowl with the division rivals. So
that's right.
Yeah, interesting to see how this one plays out, and so yeah, we'll have to just get our popcorn ready because I have a feeling that this one's not quite done yet. So, yeah, any other news notes that you want to hit up here before we start hopping into our mock 3.0?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
we can jump on in.
All righty. Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and get going in there. And with mock 3.0, right, this one was kind of gloves are off. You can wheel and deal, make trades galore, all of that kind of good stuff. Like this was if you're the team on the clock, what draft pick are you making? What move are you making? How you shaking it out? So that's how this one is shaping up there. So it's time for the 2026 mock first round. First up, we've got Las Vegas on the clock. And with Las Vegas, I'm going to hold pat to my previous two. I've got them taking Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana.
No sign. This is a foregone conclusion at this point. So
yeah, that's what I would think as well.
the odds are like negative. What were they, Derek? Like negative 3,600 or 20. I mean, it was stupid.
It was more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was absolutely stupid. The amount of money that you have to put down to win $100 because everybody sees this one coming.
Right. Like this is one of those kind of worst kept secrets, out there kind of thing. But, anyway, we'll go ahead and hit up the next one. Number 2, the Jets are on the clock. And I've got them taking, I'm going to hold pat on my previous versions as well. And I've got them taking Avril Reese, the edge out of Ohio State.
I have them going David Bailey, only because I think he's going to be a bit of a more immediate impact. And with the Jets coming in, they only had 26 sacks in the 2025 season. They need a guy who can get to the quarterback, speed him up, and help out that defense. So I think for the immediate impact, and this is just as much job security as anything else, I think we're going to see David Bailey go number 2 to the Jets.
Okay. I like it. Yeah, and this is kind of one of those, it's pick your pass rusher type of thing, right? You're going David Bailey, I'm going Avril Reese, both of which I think will be one of those top picks there. So let's go ahead and move on to number 3. I've got a little something shaking here. So why don't you go ahead and lead the way with your number 3 pick?
So I think the Cardinals kind of changed things up here a little bit, and I have them going offensive tackle at this position. Instead of on the defensive side. But I think they keep it because they're not loving the compensation that they can get to slide down. So I have them going Francis Muigoa, the offensive tackle out of Miami.
I like it. At this point, I do have the Cardinals making a trade here. So we do have a trade happening with this one. I'm listening to some of the smoke coming out of Cowboys camp, and Jerry, sounding like he's getting a little itchy to make some deals happen here. And I've got the Cowboys trading up with Arizona. Cowboys giving up their 12th and 20th pick, and then they'll also do a late round swap to even out the finishing compensation on that. And the Cowboys are coming up to take David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech.
Okay. Listen, it was a big problem for the Cowboys. I understand why they're trying to get after it. So, kudos to them.
Right. This one here is, I'm going to put that disclaimer that I don't know that that'll actually happen, but I wanted to play this one out with some trades and kind of see how that one went. So this one here decided to shake it up with an early pick swap here. And we're just going to see how this one plays out there. Let's go ahead and move on to number 4. Tennessee is on the clock. What do you have happening here with the number 4 pick?
I have them going with Avril Reese. With him not going to the Cardinals at 3, I think Tennessee is breathing a sigh of relief that they don't have to spend a top 5 pick on a running back, and instead they're going to get arguably the best pass rusher in the class with Avril Reese, and they're going to be extremely excited that they can exhale and worry about running back later on.
Okay, I like it. I'm going to have the Titans. They're going to make this pick here. And so far in mocks 1 and 2, I had them taking Jeremiah Love. I'm going to switch that one up here as well. I do think that Robert Saleh is going to be pounding the table for somebody on that defensive side of the ball. And this is a guy that knows how much a linebacker can absolutely make or break your defense here, right? Having had Fred Warner for all those years in San Francisco. And Sony Styles is a guy that can be a game wrecker and be that kind of difference maker at the linebacker position. So that's where the Titans are going here. Sony Style, linebacker out of Ohio State.
I like that. I think that's only a little interesting because Styles is more quick twitch than like 3-down thumper, but he's extremely explosive, extremely versatile, and it gives Robert Saleh plenty of flexibility to be able to kind of stick him around the field and have him because when Fred Warner came in, he was not necessarily a 3-down thumper either. So I think that was a really solid comparison in how their builds at least kind of matched up a little bit coming into the pros.
Yeah. And so one of those, we'll see the defensive minded coach get a defensive player to see how they can build that one. Alrighty, that's going to go ahead and move us on over, right? We were talking about the Giants pretty heavily before this draft started. Dexter Lawrence, potentially contract issues, potential trade opportunities out here, but the Giants are on the clock here at number 5. What do you have the Giants doing here?
I have him going with Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle / guard out of Utah. They know that they need offensive line help. They didn't run the ball particularly well. They need to make sure they're protecting Jackson Dart, and Fano gives them the ability to kind of move in multiple positions across the offensive line. And whether it's left side guard, right side guard, or right tackle, it gives him plenty of flexibility to be able to put right into the lineup and help that offensive unit.
Okay, I like it. The Giants certainly need some help along the offensive line, right? They've also got needs at defensive line, cornerback, wide receiver, safety, running back, linebacker. Like they've got all sorts of kind of needs across the way there, right? Like this could be a point too, right? If you see the Giants go through and draft a defensive lineman, an edge rusher type of thing, right? Like a Ruben Bain is out there. That could very well signal that they are fully willing to move off of Dexter Lawrence and all of that, right? I get it that they're edge rusher versus defensive tackle, but kind of signifying that. But I do think that Harbaugh is going to be pounding the table and really wanting one of the best players available in the draft. And so I think that's what they're going to be doing is when you've got to pick this high, take the best player available. That's Jeremiah Love, and I do see them taking Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame here.
There you go. That'd be fun.
Be interesting for sure. Any other thoughts here on pick 5?
No, I like that.
All righty. Let's go ahead and move on over to the number 6 pick, Cleveland, on the clock with this one. What do you have the Cleveland doing?
I have Cleveland kind of scrambling at this point. They're not in love with the board. They don't necessarily need a Sonny Styles, but do they feel like they're pinched in on him a little bit? I think that for the now, they're going to say no. And what they're going to do is they're going to back to edge rusher. I've been pretty consistent across all 3 of our mock drafts. I think that they want a partner to Myles Garrett. And so they're going to go with Ruben Bain out of Miami to set the edge on the opposite side as Myles Garrett and become kind of a 2-headed wrecking ball for the Cleveland Browns.
I like it. Yeah, I could see that one happening there, right? That would be that'd be kind of a crazy lineup there, having those two opposite of each other, and just good luck trying to run an offense under 2 seconds. So I like that call. I've got the Browns, and I'm going to stay consistent for my mock 2.0. I'm going to have them take offensive lineman here, right? Francis McGowie on the clock here, and that's where I think that they're going to go here is offensive line, try and bolster that up, right? Big questions at quarterback here, and you may be moving on and next year with whatever quarterback that looks like, but solidifying the offensive line there to try and help that along. Any other thoughts here on number 6?
No, sir.
All righty. Number 7, Washington is on the clock here. What do you have happening here with pick 7?
I have Washington in a coin flip here at the moment. And they're in a coin flip between Sonny Styles and Jeremiah Love.
Okay.
and it's both are a position of need. They're trying to figure out what's going on. I think ultimately Washington believes that what happened last year offensively with the injuries to Daniels and um, not having Terry McLaurin in camp and kind of the slow start there will rectify itself this year. So I think they're going to add a piece, and they're going to add Jeremiah Love to this backfield and really try and push this forward, and then find the right piece here later in the draft for the defense.
Okay. No, I like that. And running back is a huge positional need there for them, right? If Jeremiah Love is still available, I could absolutely see them taking that one there. On my board though, Jeremiah Love is not available. I've got the Commanders looking at at another offensive weapon though to add to the mix and potentially play opposite of Terry McLaurin. And I've got them taking Carnell Tate, the wide net receiver out of Ohio State.
Like that.
All righty. Number 8. We've got New Orleans on the clock. What do you have happening here with this 8th pick?
New Orleans at this point is extremely happy. They lost a lot of defensive talent across the line. With Cameron Jordan, Mario Davis. So Sonny Styles is going to be their guy, and they're going to be happy to have kind of a new face to the franchise, at least defensively, going forward here. So Styles is going from Columbus down to the Big Easy, and he's going to kick it in New Orleans.
I like it. I've got the Saints looking to address some of that offensive line, right, and some of that defensive help that or that defensive line and the defensive side of things that you were just speaking of as well. And I've got them going to try and bring in a game wrecker on this one, and I've got them looking at the edge rusher out of Miami, Reuben Bain.
That makes a ton of sense too.
Yeah. All righty. That puts the Chiefs on the clock here. And what do you have happening here with the 9th pick?
I have the Chiefs giving Patrick Mahomes another weapon. And this one's a bit different, I think, than what I thought earlier, but I have Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, being the first guy off the board here. He's a little bit of a taller body. He's not necessarily that shifty route, almost kind of like a Juju, as opposed to a Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy type. But I think bring another guy in, like they're just going to keep plugging this away. And as much help as they need on the defensive side of the ball, I think that in Spagnuolo, they trust in the system that it will take over time, and they need ways to help Mahomes out coming off this ACL injury. They know that, they might play a little bit of catch up if they get off to a slow start in a what should be competitive division. So Jordan Tyson, first wide receiver off the board on my list today.
I like that one. I really looked at the Chiefs, potentially taking a wide receiver here as well, but just because it does seem very kind of, if they've got a first round pick, lately they've been wanting to try and draft a wide receiver first, second round and just kind of cycle through that until they find their guy, so to speak. So I like that call and I like that pick. However, I do think that they are going to go ahead and address a massive hole on the other side of the ball, right? They in the last 2 years, they've let a couple of guys that were considered premier cornerbacks go ahead and leave through trade, and I've got them looking at cornerback here to try and plug into McDuffie's spot, and I've got them taking Mansour Delane, the cornerback out of LSU.
I think that pick also makes a ton of sense.
All righty, let's go ahead and look at number 10 then. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock. What do you have happening here with pick 10?
Mansour Delane going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Dreadful pass defense. Was a real shutdown corner for LSU. And I think he steps in, day one starter, and a guy who is going to be ready to take the field right away in a division that outside of the Bengals doesn't have amazing wide receivers. They have some solid ones, but they don't have amazing wide receivers. So he's big enough to body up DK, but he's also rangy and fast enough to deal with the likes of oh shoot, like a either Jerry Judy for the Browns or
Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers. Yes, thank you. Sorry, his name was escaping me.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that call. And you're right. This is a team that needs a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball and trying to slow things down there. Right. I've also got the Bengals looking at defensive help here as well and looking at the secondary side of things. But Mansur Delane was already off the board here. But I do think that the Bengals are going to take a little bit of safety help here. And this is where we see Caleb Downs come off the board, safety out of Ohio State. All righty, that's going to move us to number 11. Miami's on the clock. What are you thinking here with the Dolphins?
So the Miami Dolphins have a new head coach. His name's Jeff Haley. And Jeff Haley was a coach with Ryan Day when they were both in San Francisco and then again at Ohio State. So this brings me back to the fact of I didn't have to make a point to begin with, but this brings me back to the Dolphins' exodus of all things talent, offensively and defensively. But I think they're going to lean on the offensive side of the ball this go around. Caleb Downs is still there on my board, so you could see either Ohio State guy go. But I think they're going with Carnell Tate because they have to have someone for Malik Willis to throw the football to. And right now, they just don't.
I like that. I'm in a similar thought that they've got to have somebody, with an offensive skill set position for Malik Willis to try and throw the ball to as well. Carnell Tate is already off the board on mine, but I do have them taking the very talented Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC, with this one. All righty, that moves the pick number 12 on the clock. Right, your board still shows the Cowboys with this pick. My board would be the Cardinals on that. What do you have happening here with pick 12?
I have the Cowboys extremely happy because Caleb Downs fell to them. I think in a perfect world, they would like Sonny Styles. In this world, they get Caleb Downs, which is a very good pivot for the Cowboys. They weren't great on the back end. Downs is a really smart player, really what's the right word? Technically sound. He doesn't give up a whole lot of penalties, which will help the Cowboys as well because they had a ton of those on the back end. But again, guys step in, day one starter there at safety for the Cowboys and able to give them a lift to help against teams who are willing to air it out against them.
Okay, I like it. Certainly can see them doing that, and I think they would be very happy if that's how the board fell to them. Arizona, right on my board, they made the trade with the Cowboys early on to fall to pick number 12 here, and they've got all sorts of just holes all across the lineup here, but there is Monroe Freeling out there, and the offensive line is a position of need, and I do think that that's where they go here. Offensive tackle out of Georgia here with this 12th pick. Any other thoughts here on pick 12?
No, I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense for what they need as well.
All righty, number 13. The Rams, Los Angeles, are on the clock here. What do you have happening here with this number 13 pick?
I have the Rams going like all chips pushed in for Matt Stafford's swan song, and I have them going Mekhi Lemon out of USC. Devontae Adams is in his final year of the deal. He's going to be 34 towards the end of this regular season, so longer in the tooth, especially for a wide receiver. Had some injuries last year, and just being able to spread it out because Puka gets nicked up a little bit as well. This brings some youth in there. He can learn from two great wide receivers and a really competent quarterback, and really jumpstart his NFL progression. And then even after seemingly Devontae Adams would step away from the Rams after the season, even if Matt Stafford retires, you have Puka and Lemon to kind of carry the offense skill position set forward here for a little bit.
I like that one. With this one here, I was a little torn on this pick because of some of the various places that the Rams have holes, right? Like they've got holes on offensive line, right? They could use another wide receiver as a big positional need. Some secondary and some linebacker help also required here. So like really leaned hard into potentially looking at an offensive lineman as a positional need for them to come in, bring somebody in, help protect Stafford, bring some depth into that offensive line that saw one of their starters retire this last year. But that being said, I do think that they're going to go a little bit more on the fireworks side of things there, more so than build in the trenches. And I've got them going out and bringing in Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, to be that big body kind of guy to also, see how Devontae does things, see how Puka does things, and ultimately, kind of fill in there and learn from a couple of highly talented guys at the position.
I like that. I think that fits as well.
All righty. Number 14, we have Baltimore. The Ravens are on the clock here. What do you have happening here with pick 14?
I have the Ravens going Jermon McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee. Getting a little bit more help on the back end as some of those guys are continuing to kind of get older. I'm not fully convinced on what this offense is going to look like. I know there's a lot of draft boards out there that have them going Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. While I don't hate that necessarily, I think, again, if you're trying to strike while Lamar Jackson is still, in his prime, you got to be able to get him as many chances as possible, and you're not so much worried about the skill position set. So I have him going cornerback and letting the offense kind of take care of itself later on.
I like that, right? I because they do need some help on the back end, right? They need some help across the defensive line, edge rusher, linebacker. Like they've got some holes on the defensive side of things. And this was a defense a couple of years ago that was pretty stout and certainly was not the case in this last year. I do see the Ravens though building in the trenches on this with this pick here, and I've got them doing it on the offensive side of things. Spencer Fano still on the clock, so I've got them taking Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah, with this pick. Any other thoughts here on pick 14?
No, I think that pick works very well for what the Ravens want to do as well.
All righty, let's go ahead and move on to pick number 15 and Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock here. What do you have happening here with pick 15?
I have them, again, another team that's kind of in win now mode. I have them going Kenyon Sadiq. They're going to add to the offensive skill sets. So now you have Mbuka, Sadiq. You still have Godwin. You have McMillan there. So plenty of weapons for Baker alongside, Bucky Irving and the running back from Pittsburgh they just brought in.
Gainwell.
Kenneth Gainwell. Good Lord, I'm struggling with names tonight.
It does happen.
It does, yeah. It's happening all over. Apparently, it's getting past my bedtime. I don't know. But I have them going Sadiq to be able to kind of plug in and probably be more of a factor than K. Dotton has ever been.
Fair enough. I like that. I like that pick. Right, like certainly brings another weapon into the fold. But right, the Buccaneers, had quite a few, had several issues kind of along the way on that one. Currently they do have some offensive line help that is that's required on this one, especially kind of on the interior side of things, and the best interior offensive lineman still available on the board in this draft. And so that's where I've got them going is Olavega Ione, the interior offensive lineman out of Penn State. Any other thoughts?
No, I like that pick, and he does. He plays. The dude is a bulldozer, and he's aggressive. He's gonna bring a swagger. I like that pick.
All righty. Let's go ahead and move to number 16 and the New York Jets on the clock here. What do you think they're going to do with this pick at 16?
I have the Jets going Omar Cooper, the wide receiver out of Indiana. I think he pairs well. It's a different skill set than what Garrett Wilson has. It also brings a true number 2 in there, and it doesn't force Garrett Wilson to play in the middle of the field where he's not quite as effective. He can stay outside. Cooper will not that he can't play outside because that's predominantly where he is, but I think he'll have more of the in-breaking routes. A bit of a bigger body, tough type receiver with good hands. So I think it's going to help right now Geno Smith, but whoever the Jets decide is going to be their long-term answer at quarterback.
Okay. No, I like that one, right? Like I certainly looked hard at the Jets taking a wide receiver with this pick. Right, that is a positional need, right? As well as quarterback, cornerback, safety, linebacker, offensive line, defensive line. Like they've got some holes, kind of all over the place. There's a reason they're picking number 2 in this draft. But with this one, right, as much as I wanted to look at having them go wide receiver, I do think that they may look on the defensive side of the ball again, right? They've got the defensive-minded head coach. They already addressed some of their defensive line issues earlier in this draft with that second pick in Avril Reese. This time around, I've got them going a little bit more on the secondary side of things. And Jermod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee, is still on my board here, and that's who I see them bringing in to try and shore up the defense side of things here a little bit more going into this season. Alrighty, moving on to number 17, Detroit on the clock. What do you think the Lions are doing here?
I think this is where Ione is going. For many of the same reasons that we talked about when we were talking about the Ravens. Is he's a knee biter. Like I just see Dan Campbell loving this guy for everything that he does. The Lions had some offensive line issues last year as well. So you bring Ione in, you're plugging him as your starting guard right away, and just allow him to do his thing for Dan Campbell and company. And I think that the team and the city of Detroit will fall in love with this guy once he hits the field for him.
Okay. I like the call at the offensive line side of things. And I do think that if he's available there, they can't wait to smash the yes button and draft him. But on my board, Ione is not available, but I do think that the Lions are still going to fill this spot with an offensive lineman, right? Like this is a team that prided themselves on having probably one of the best offensive lines here a couple seasons ago. That isn't necessarily the case any longer. So I do think that they're going to build that up here. And I've got them going with big Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle out of Alabama, for this pick. Alrighty, that moving on to pick number 18. Minnesota is on the clock. What do you think is happening here with pick 18?
Secondary or wide receiver, right? That's kind of the thing. I've been going in the secondary. I have them going McNeil Warren, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety out of Toledo. Okay. So a nice little replacement for Harrison Smith.
Right. And you and I are both looking at safety here. And Emmanuel McNeil Warren was a guy that I looked at really heavy for this pick here, but I've got them going with a little different safety help. I've got them going with Dylan Thiemann, the safety out of Oregon, on this one here. Any other thoughts on pick 18?
No, I think this one, at least safety, right? I think both of us are leaning pretty hard on safety for Minnesota, unless one of these top 2 corners happen to fall to them, which I don't see happening.
Right. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on to pick number 19, Carolina. The Panthers are on the clock with this one. What do you have happening here at pick 19?
I have the Panthers going Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. Okay. They had a lot of had a lot of offensive line turnover because of health last year. Now, um, obviously they'll be healthy, but they lost a tackle and a guard, I believe, in free agency. So they're trying to restock the cupboards, get some youth in there. But Freeling's a guy who can step in, play right tackle for them right away, potentially move to left after a couple seasons, I think. But to start out, he'll be able to plug in on the right side.
Okay. I can absolutely see that one, and I like that call there. Um, this one here, I've got them looking at the defensive side of the ball, right? And Avion Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson, is still available, and cornerback is a positional need for Carolina coming into this draft, and I think that they're very happy that Avion Terrell fell to them with this pick here. Any other thoughts with 19?
No, sir.
Alrighty, go ahead and moving on to pick number 20. On your board, you've got the Cowboys still with this pick, and on mine, I've got the Arizona Cardinals with this pick here. What do you think's happening with pick number 20?
I have the Cowboys going back to the defensive side of the ball, and this time they're getting an edge rusher, Akeem Mesidor, out of Miami.
Okay, I like that one a lot there. That's I had Mesidor going to Cowboys at 20 in my mock 2.0, so I like that call there. And if still if the Cowboys still had that pick, I could absolutely see them doing that on my board. But in this scenario, they traded this pick along with the 12th pick to move up to number 3, and the Cardinals are now on the clock here. Cardinals again have a lot of need here for a lot of different positions, and I do see them taking a guy that's potentially a little bit of a project here at the quarterback position. But Ty Simpson does come off the board here at pick 20 to Arizona. Any thoughts on pick number 20?
No, sir.
All righty. Let's go ahead and move on to number 21. Pittsburgh. The Steelers are on the clock here. What do you have happening here with the 20th pick?
I have the Steelers drafting Ty Simpson here. We think Aaron Rodgers will come back to give it one more with Mike McCarthy with the relationship that they had and the success they had earlier on in his career, but they still need a plan for the future. And Ty Simpson being able to get him in the 5th year on him, giving him a full year that, barring injury, he's just not going to see the field. So he's able to learn and absorb the playbook and watch and study Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. I think that could be best case scenario for the Steelers. So I have them going Ty Simpson here as the heir apparent.
Yeah, that was one of those that had Ty Simpson not come off the board here at number 20, and as things kind of start going through there, I would have leaned into the Steelers taking Ty Simpson here as well. But Ty Simpson comes off the board one pick prior to the Steelers, and so they're still on the Steelers still on the clock, right? They need some QB help, some safety help, linebacker, cornerback, wide receiver, running back, and offensive tackle. So kind of a myriad of positions here, but I do see them kind of drafting on the defensive side of the ball, a very Steelers type of move here, and taking a linebacker on this one here. And I've got them taking CJ Allen, a guy that can kind of get into the gaps, pretty good downhill, can play some good zone type of coverage out there as well. So that's who I have the Steelers taking here at pick 20, the linebacker out of Georgia. Let's go ahead and move on to number 22, Los Angeles on the clock, this time the Chargers. And what do you think the Chargers are going to do with this pick?
I have the Chargers learning from their mistakes last year. They got clipped on both their offensive tackle positions due to injuries, and it kind of sent their offensive line spiraling. So I think they're going to try and get in front of that by drafting another offensive tackle and getting him in the wings. So Blake Miller, the offensive tackle out of Clemson, is the guy I have for them. So he played and started all 54 games that he was at Clemson for. So he's durable. He has a ton of reps under his belt, and I think that he's going to be able to go right in and make himself very useful for John Harbaugh and crew.
Oh, I like that one. Like that one a
Jim
lot.
Harbaugh. Sorry, Jim Harbaugh.
It certainly like that one a lot there. And I've got them also looking at kind of building in the trenches, but on the opposite side of the ball here, right? Like this is a team that I think that they'll really try and get after they're in a division, right, with some heavy quarterback play there, and I think that they're going to do what they can to try and get in there and disrupt some of those quarterbacks and speed the clock up a little bit. So I do have them taking an edge rusher here, and I've got them looking at Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher out of Auburn, for this 22nd pick. Let's go ahead and move on over to pick number 23, Philadelphia. The Eagles are on the clock. What do you have happening here with pick 23?
I have the Eagles going on the defensive side of the ball, kind of replacing some of the edge rushing talent that they've lost in free agency, and going TJ Parker out of Clemson.
Okay, I like that one a lot. I've also got the Eagles looking to address edge rusher as well on the and on that one. On my board, Akeem Mesidor is still on the clock here, the edge rusher out of Miami, and I think that's the way that they'll go with this pick. Any other thoughts here on pick 23?
No, sir.
All righty, let's go ahead and move to number 24, Cleveland. The Browns back on the clock here. What do you have happening here with the 24th pick?
So having gone edge rusher earlier, I think Cleveland's going to pivot. They're looking on the offensive side of the ball. So it's just a matter of, do they like a Casey Concepcion, a David Denzel Boston, out of Washington? I think that, they're kind of able to take whichever guy they like a bit more. I think for now, they're going to go with Concepcion, has a little bit more game-breaking ability. He's kind of like a little human. I shouldn't say little. He's not a small guy, but he's kind of a human juke stick. Like he's just got some fluidity in his hips that allows him to make defenders miss. And Cleveland desperately needs a guy who can get in the open field and cause some damage.
I like that one a lot. I've got the Browns also looking at wide receiver here as well, and Concepcion was certainly in the mix on this one. But I did have the Browns going with a very big body receiver on this one to play opposite of Jerry Jeudy, and I've got them looking at Denzel Boston, the wide receiver out of Washington. Right, this is a guy that's 6'4", 210. Really that big body X type of has that X type of build to come in and be able to play on the outside. So that's where I've got them going with this one here. Number 25, Chicago, the Bears on the clock here. What do you see happening with the 25th pick?
I have the Bears continuing to invest in their offense as kind of their head coach's mindset, but they're going Caden Proctor, the big offensive tackle out of Alabama, to kind of complete the bookend for tackles, as they picked up one last year as well.
Okay. Yeah, I could certainly see them going offensive side and building in the trenches. Certainly makes a lot of sense, right? If Caden Proctor's there, I think they absolutely smash yes and move on. On my board, Caden Proctor is not on the clock or not on the board. So at this point, I think the Bears look on the opposite sides, continuing to build in the trenches, and the defensive line is a pretty big positional need for them, and I've got them going with Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Number 26, Buffalo, the Bills on the clock here. What do you see happening with the 26th pick?
I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills traded it, because that's what they've been doing lately. But I think for this one, they need help at receiver. They need a guy that they can continuously kind of lean on and go to. I have Denzel Boston as their guy, a big bodied receiver, played in cooler elements up in Washington. I get it's the other coast going to Buffalo, but same potential weather patterns as you get later into the year. So I have him being a massive presence for Josh Allen, and a guy who can just go up and body cornerbacks as Allen's able to kind of buy time and get it down the field.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that one, right? Like the Bills have had some had a help wanted sign, it seems like, at the wide receiver position for the last couple of seasons here. Keon Coleman certainly not being the guy that they hoped would be when they drafted him in the second round a couple of years ago. So I do like that Denzel Boston pick there. The Bills, I've got them looking on the defensive side of the ball on this one, right? They they really kind of needing to build up there a little bit. And I've got them looking at the edge rusher, TJ Parker, out of Clemson, to come in and be a guy that can, certainly speed up the opposing quarterbacks and really try and get the things going, right? This is a guy that set a had a ton of tackles for loss a couple seasons back. Um, set a record for forced fumbles. Like, this is a guy that certainly has the ability to be a bit of that game wrecker. And so I think that's where they're going to lean on here. Alrighty, that's going to move us to number 27, the 49ers on the clock here. What do you think's happening with pick 27?
So for the first two mock drafts, I had the Niners going wide receiver, and it might have been Concepcion with both picks. But that's not the case here. So the Niners are still kind of going back and forth with Trent Williams and his contract. We've seen statistics from all the national pundits over the course of the last couple of years, what the record is when Williams doesn't play. The Niners are going to get wise here, not only with Williams turning 38, but just trying to find their next tackle and who's going to protect Brock Purdy. So I have them going Caleb Lomu, the offensive tackle out of Utah, to come in and at least start to learn the process. I don't know if he's going to start right away for them, possibly if they don't get this Trent Williams deal worked out, but he is going to be able to step in and he'll have significant playing time throughout the year.
Oh, I like that one. I like that one a lot, right? Like, that's the Niners, really seem to kind of like to try and build in the trenches on that one there, right? Some of these guys are getting a little bit older, a little bit longer in the tooth. Some contract type of issues kind of working themselves out. And I do see that the Niners are going to build in the trenches on this one, but I'm seeing on the opposite side of the ball, right? I do think that we're going to see them go out and get an edge rusher to bring in opposite Bosa. Again, really to try and speed up the opposing your team's offenses, right? Like, this is a division that you've got to get through to win the division. You got to be able to get through the Rams and the Seahawks. Two teams that have proven very very effective over the last few years. So I think that they're going to go out and get Cassius Howell, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M, to kind of bookend opposite of Bosa with this one. Any other thoughts here?
No, I like that. I think don't know if I've heard that one yet. So I think that's something that makes a lot of sense, but they got to figure it out.
All righty. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Texans here, who have the 28th pick. Houston on the clock. What do you have happening here with the 28th pick?
So I have the Texans going offensive line. It's been a position of need here over the last couple seasons. Defensively, they're pretty stout, right? They have a good formula in place, a pretty young nucleus there on the defensive end. So they got to find ways to get the most out of their quarterback and try and revive his early career success as is he year 4 now?
Yeah, I
What
believe
CJ
so.
Stroud's going into year 4 now? Yeah. So I have him going with Max Ian Anchor, I believe, out of Arizona State. A bit of a project, but they need help on the offensive line. It allows them to kind of develop it and do things his way. And the kid has a ton of upside if Houston's willing to be diligent and really put some time and effort into him.
I like that one. And offensive line certainly makes a lot of sense. That's a big, big kind of gaping hole for them, is both on the tackle and the interior side of that. So, like, there's help required there on that one. The Texans, and that was one that I looked really hard at as well. And I almost went with Caleb Lemieux on this one. Right, he's still on the board, but I looked at what made the Texans hyper successful last year. It was the defensive side of things, right? And they've got a defensive minded head coach. They've got a they've got on paper a defense, a championship caliber defense, and a defense that can go out there and win games by itself. There's a guy in the draft that's still on the board that I think can be a plug and play guy onto this one that can also ratchet that defense up another level on this one. And it's a guy that's very versatile. Peter Woods, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. And this is a guy that can play on the interior of the line. You can move him on the outside to be an edge rusher. He can affect the pocket. And once he gets back into the backfield, like, can be a bit of a game wrecker. Really good lateral movement on this one's. And a really good job both stopping the run and setting an edge on this one. So this is a guy that has a high motor and high upside that that I think could even take a really good Texans defense and take it up yet another notch going into 2026. Any other thoughts here on pick number 28? All right, number 29, the Miami, the Dolphins on the clock here. And what do you see happening with 29, Kansas City is on the clock, the Chiefs. What do you see happening here with the Chiefs? That's one.
I have the Chiefs finally addressing cornerback.
Okay.
They passed on it earlier, went with receiver. They by Chiefs nature, by their good graces, found one on my draft board. But Colton Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee, to be able to come in and start to be the next Kansas City cornerback to play for 3 or 4 years and then leave in free agency, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Or they don't want to sign to the contract extension and trade him right before. So
Yeah.
I like it, right? It makes a ton of sense. And I think that's certainly a good fit there and could be the way they go, right? The Chiefs, I already had them taking Mansour Delane with their pick earlier on. So I don't think that they're going to go double cornerback in the first round. Could be could be a surprise there, but I just don't see it happening with this one here. And this is one that I've been pretty consistent throughout all of this. I do think that if he's here, the Chiefs are going to go ahead and take a playmaker, and the heir apparent to Travis Kelce being Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon.
That would be such a Chiefs thing if it slid that far and they just get handed the next great pass catcher.
Right.
But it makes a ton of sense. It does make a ton of sense. Kansas City has tight ends on their roster, so they're not necessarily depleted, but they don't have any with the natural pass catching upside that Sadiq would be bringing in right away.
Right. That's going to move us to number 30, Miami. The Dolphins on the clock with this one. Thoughts around this pick?
I have the Dolphins going CJ Allen here. They addressed wide receiver earlier on my list, and so now I have them also addressing the defensive side. CJ Allen, who will at least be able to kind of step into the middle, be the signal caller, and start to rebuild this Miami Dolphins defense that lost a ton of talent this offseason.
I like that one. Certainly makes a lot of sense. With the Dolphins, I've got them right earlier on. They addressed wide receiver. I do have them addressing defensive side of the ball with this pick here, and I've got them looking at the secondary side of things. Right, cornerback is another huge positional need for them, and I've got them going with cornerback Colton Hood out of Tennessee with the 30th pick here. Moving on to number 30, New England, the Patriots on the clock here. What do you see happening with the 31st pick?
It's kind of a luxury pick for the Patriots, right? They still have a young team. Maybe they kind of like the Broncos, right? Kind of performed maybe a year earlier than what we thought they would. But nevertheless, Mike Vrabel gets another shot at a defensive guy, and I think he's going to take it with Dylan Thiemann, the safety out of Oregon. Lightning fast, able to cover up a lot of ground on the back end and really keep the pressure on the opposing offense in hopes that they can turn the ball back over to Drake May frequently and more often.
Right. No, it makes a ton of sense, and I could absolutely see them doing that there as well. Again, right, like as you mentioned, this is kind of a bit of a luxury pick on this one, and with that, I think that they do have some needs along the offensive line and in the trenches on this one here, right? Like they offensive tackle, interior line is both a positional need on this one. Um, and I've got them looking at Caleb Lemieux, the offensive tackle out of Utah, on this one here, right? Like, this is a guy that they can bring in and play, kind of plug and play across that offensive line and help bolster a positional need for them moving forward.
I think they'd be really happy if Lemieux fell to them right there.
I
I think they'd absolutely be thrilled with that.
Right, and I think they'd also be okay if that Max. What's
Anchor.
yes, Max Einacre, the offensive tackle out of Arizona State. I think, yeah, they'd be happy regardless which one of those two is sitting there at the 30th pick, and they're just going to say, "Yep, move on." So, I like it. Let's go ahead and move to the last pick of the first round here. Seattle, the Seahawks are on the clock here. Thoughts around this 32nd pick?
I we've talked about this for a couple weeks, right? The Seahawks did have a bunch of people leave. They need some help in the secondary. Obviously, Kenneth Walker left. They had a couple other positions that were just big time contributors in their Super Bowl run, and they're just taking BPA at this point. But I think because of how the board has fallen and the defensive picks, at least on my board, that went right before them, I think they are going to pivot, and I'm going to stay the course, and I'm going to say Jadarian Price, the other running back out of Notre Dame, to be able to go into Seattle, and that way they can continue to attack it from multiple fronts between Zach Charbonnet, Jadarian Price, and whoever else they're bringing into camp to give carries to.
I like it. Yeah, this is one that you're right. They've got kind of all sorts of different needs out there, right? Running back, secondary help. They need some edge, some defensive line help. Like they've got some holes, kind of throughout, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And while I like that running back pick there, I think there's in my board at least there's a guy that has fallen probably about a good 8, 9, 10 picks kind of further down the board than maybe he probably will, but I've got them looking at a safety out of Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, who still happens to be on the board here for me, and I think Seattle is overjoyed if he happens to fall to them at 32nd here.
I'd agree. I think they'd be very happy to walk away with that.
Yeah, one of those where they can't they couldn't quite wait to run up to the podium fast enough if that's the way that one falls to pass there. So, alrighty, well, that's gonna wrap it up here with the with mock 3.0. Any thoughts? Any surprises for you?
About surprises, I think we're getting it honed in here a little bit, right? Obviously, we didn't have nearly as many from the first week where we were saying, okay, I'm there with you. Like, we had a lot of guys in the same range, right? Within a pick or two of each other, but just kind of different landing spots for some reason or another. And then we had a couple guys that were, just spread out, and that's the fun in this. But I wouldn't say any surprise. I think both scenarios are, possible, right? I mean,
Right.
To nail all 32 of these picks, no one's going to do it. You're not going to find anyone who's nailing all 32 of these first round picks, but the justification behind them remains sound. These NFL teams might look at it differently. It's still like the ultimate bucket list that I don't know I'll ever be able to complete, is to just sit in the war room and just listen throughout the draft, like I don't want to say a word. Like I just want to sit there and listen and hear what they're talking about and how they work through this process. It's fascinating to me. Um, but until I get to do that, I get to do mock drafts and say, well, if I was the GM and head coach, this is what I would do.
Right. I like that thought, and that would be a lot of fun to be able to be the fly on the wall, and kind of see how those conversations play out and see how that one comes to pass there. Um, yeah, I don't know that there was a ton that really kind of surprised me either. There's a few of these things, a few of these guys that really haven't changed much throughout my mocks there, right? They may have risen, fallen, maybe a slightly different team kind of takes them. This one here, right? Like I wanted to just on my mock 3.0, wanted to just kind of make a splash and make something happen that really kind of caused the board to play very different than it had in some of these previous drafts here. Biggest way to do that is to make make a splash trade, right? And who's most likely to do something splashy? It's going to be Jerry, right? And there's been some of that smoke kind of coming out of Cowboys camp that Jerry feeling a little itchy, so to speak. So I could see them trading up. The Cardinals, they need all the help that they can get with some of the and acquiring more draft capital. Yeah, is going to be a big thing for them, I think. So made it through. I don't know that we're going to actually see that trade come through, but it was a fun exercise to go through nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll inevitably see some, right? Like given a choice, and because we make, produce, and run the show, I have a choice. But I hate trying to predict trades in the draft, so I typically just kind of go down the board and give my thoughts and opinions afterwards. But we'll see some trades. Maybe that's one of them, maybe not. Like you just try and think that the teams that need draft picks, most of them already have 2 in the first round. Like they've already set themselves up for that. So is it possible that they really love a guy and they're going after it? Yeah, maybe. Like I think, like you said, the Cowboys kind of make the most sense, but it worked in your draft board, and then I feel like for them it also worked in mine because they got 2 defensive players that are going to be starters for them. So is 2 greater than 1, or would you rather just have the top end pass rusher? Like,
right.
I think that you could flip a coin and you could argue both sides fairly well. And again, whatever Jerry and Steven Jones decide to do, so be it, along with the rest of these teams. But it's always fun.
Right. The Browns are another team that I could see trading back on number 6, right? Like they're another team that needs a lot of different help. Yeah, I could see the Chiefs potentially trying to move up a little bit from 9, just to make some things happen on that one, right? Like if they're in love with with one of these guys, potentially moving up to a couple of spots there from 9 to 7 or 9 to 6, could see something like that kind of playing through there as well. Who else in there as well, right? I could also see the Rams kind of doing something there, right? Like the Rams are kind of almost a little bit of a luxury pick, so to speak, at 13. And depending upon how things start kind of shaking through, I could see them potentially moving up or moving back a little bit. So that's another team there. The Jets at 16, I could see them doing something kind of crazy, right? The Jets jetting, and either really trying to move up and get a guy, or trading back there and acquiring more picks. So there's some fluidity on this one, whereas some of the years past, I looked at the board and go, ooh, I don't see it happening. I don't see many trades going through, but this year wouldn't surprise me if we see probably 3 or 4 trades through this first round here, through draft night. Yeah, maybe even a little bit more so. But there's a couple of different ways that I could see this board falling, where we see teams really start shuffling the pieces around, as far as draft capital and who's picking at what spot. So, but that is part of the fun, and we'll see how that one plays out there. And we're all of 9 days away at this point, so just under a week and a half. So it'll be a lot of fun. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
We're getting close. we're getting close. Those of you who are diehard fantasy fans, maybe you've done some dynasty startups, maybe you've done some way too early rookie drafts. I highly advise against those. I don't care what anybody says. Like, I want to know their landing spot before I'm drafting rookies onto a dynasty team that I'm paying money and having to actively look at year round, but that's my opinion. But 9 days away, and then at least many questions will be answered.
Yeah. So it'll be good to see and a lot of fun, right? Like, always interested to see what happens over draft weekend, right? Like, we made a big deal of the first round, but there's a lot of these guys that are taken in on day 2 and day 3 that especially for fantasy purposes will have some big impact here coming up, and we'll definitely shake some things around. So it'll be fun to see how that one play out and go through, and we'll be looking forward to next week as well, right? We'll have some fun here leading up to day before the or a couple of days before the draft on the next Tuesday show. But I do believe that's going to do it for us tonight. Appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, all that good stuff. Find us on all the socials: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Good Old Boys FF. Do us a favor, head over to YouTube, click that subscribe, ring the bell. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.